Hey, hey, it's Aaliyah, and I am back with another conversation. I am so excited to be back with you all because it's honestly been a while. Even though I will be dropping episodes, it has been a while. But I'm getting back into it. When you are a parent, when you are an entrepreneur, when you are working, when you have a lot of different titles, you have to figure out how to harmonize things and balance it all. So, I love this space. I'm not gonna give up on this space. I'm going to keep dropping podcast episodes because I feel like people need to hear these conversations, especially this one today. So, we have a special guest. I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, something interesting about you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Aaliyah. Good morning. My name is Colleen Kelly, and I am a retired chemistry professor. And during my career, I have taught all ages. So I spent most of my time in higher education teaching chemistry, but I spent 8 years teaching high school chemistry at the same time. And after retirement, I only lasted 4 months and went from teaching graduate students at about age 24 years old to 4-year-olds in about 4 months. So I retired for all of 4 months, and now I'm an elementary school science teacher. So I have pre-K to fifth grade scientist, and I'm passionate about making chemistry in particular, fun, accessible, robust, and really rebranding chemistry as thinking about it as a literacy course instead of this mysterious science course.
Can you tell us why chemistry, like why is chemistry important in our society today, and how did you get into chemistry?
Yeah, so the importance of science or of chemistry, I think, is universal. When I think about chemistry, I think about it as a universal language. We are all connected through the molecules and elements that are in our bodies and in our environment. And because of that, the striking similarities between all of us on an atomic level needs to be recognized. And I think if we understand the atoms, the molecules, the elements that compose all of us and our environments, we're going to better understand each other, right? So
Mm.
I really feel like chemistry is a universal language and one that should be spoken by all of us so that we can develop a better understanding of what's going on between us, what's happening in our world, all of the above. So I want to take it from that and say chemistry is important because it is what we are made of. And if we
Mm.
understand what we're made of, we'll understand each other and come from a place of understanding instead of a place of conflict. So I'm looking at it as a global connector.
Wow.
Um, how did I become interested in chemistry? That's a great question. I'm a first generation college student. Um, I was trained in typing skills and administrative assistant skills. So I was not supposed to go to college. I was supposed to get a job right away and help my family out. But in high school, I had a really great chemistry teacher, and I liked the puzzles. I liked the written part of chemistry. I thought it was really cool that you could read about elements and that you could solve puzzles, and that there were some real world applications to it. So I really enjoyed it, and I really wanted to know more. So I figured out a way to go to college so I
Mm.
could study more chemistry. So it just was a teacher who sparked my interest, but I didn't have any kind of exemplary background at home or in my community or anything like that.
Wow, that is such a beautiful experience because now, like you said, you are teaching children in chemistry. And I would love to know, like, how are you getting children engaged in chemistry? What is that spark that's getting them curious and interested?
Well, our children are very, very, very curious, as you know.
Yeah.
And I just love their minds. Diving into their minds has been the greatest joy of the last couple of years. I created a series of chemistry comic books and games and activities. And what I did is I scaffolded the learning objectives found in a college level course And so if I were going to teach chapter one from a college level course, I put that in my first comic book. And when I say comic book, it's really a graphic novel. Each comic book's about 40 or 50 pages, so they're pretty beefy and they're full of fun activities and puzzles and games, and there's hands-on stuff in there. So there's all kinds of things. There's a very detailed 108-page lesson plan so folks at home or folks in the classroom can follow along and facilitate the learning through the comic books. But what these comic books do are they introduce what I call big league chemistry in an age-appropriate manner. So, like I said, each comic book scaffolds a learning objective found in a college level course. But our littles, as young as 7 or 8, are great at this because when you think about the periodic table as the alphabet of science, you're going to recognize that the best time to teach chemistry and the elements is when kids are transitioning from learning to reading to learn because they have that neural pathway open that where they've just put together C, A, and T to spell cat, right? So they know about putting symbols together to spell a word. Well, now I'm saying, okay, here's a different alphabet based on the same letters, but it's a different arrangement of letters. And why don't you put Na and Cl together and get sodium chloride? And they're like, oh, we just did that. We know how to do that. And so I'm seeing phenomenal results with our younger learners because they're very open to the periodic table and they look at it with wonder and curiosity and they just want to devour it and know everything about this mysterious new alphabet because they just finished learning the alphabet. So I call this whole realm of inquiry molecular literacy, and the development of molecular literacy I'm finding really should start at about age 7 or 8 instead of waiting till college. We don't teach the alphabet in college or high school. So why are we
Exactly.
teaching the alphabet of science so late? It makes no sense to me now that I've unveiled it, I can't go back.
I love that. So start early. I feel like that's a message that I try to tell parents in homeschooling or just in general. Like, whatever you want to do with your kids, let them be curious. Start now. Be engaged. So that they can better understand what's going on around them, which is what you are doing. What do you think are misconceptions that people have about chemistry that maybe like pushes them away from learning more about chemistry?
Well, I think there's so many misconceptions, like all of them. But I'll start with a few that are prominent. There's a branding issue, right? So because chemistry is taught so late, most folks come to chemistry in high school or in college as molecularly illiterate. So they see it as a very difficult course. If I were to go to a country where the alphabet was different, say like China, um, I can't read Mandarin. And I would find that very difficult to navigate anything there. And I would find workarounds. So the difficulty in chemistry isn't because of the inherent nature of chemistry, it's because of molecular illiteracy. So the workarounds that people find are math, right? So people think, oh, well, chemistry is, you have to be good at math to be good at chemistry. That's only because for decades, that's the only tool that students have. They see a number on a board in a chemistry class, go, at least I know what that is because I've been learning numbers since preschool. So they use numbers as a workaround, but we know that that falls flat because by the time they got to my course at the university, which was organic chemistry, it's not numbers based. There's no numbers in organic chemistry. And so then you have students who maybe excelled in science for their entire lives get to college and fail their first course because they don't have a workaround and they discover that they are molecularly illiterate. Now, there wasn't a term for that 5 years ago. It's something that my research has uncovered. So what I'm saying is let's give grace, right? It
Hmm.
is not a hard course. These molecules are not being mean to anybody. It's
Mhm.
a, it's what we're all made of. It's all natural. It's all organic. And let's give it some grace and pause and think about what happens when you are illiterate in this world, whether it's illiterate in English language arts or molecularly illiterate, right? It's daunting, it's impossible, there's barriers. So let's start with molecular literacy so that when they get to chemistry, they can really start to unravel some of the more fun mysteries that happen at the atomic molecular level. Does that make sense?
Mm. That does, because I'm thinking about my science journey and how growing up, I did not like science at all. Like, I was just like, I don't like it. In high school, we did some cool things, biology, we dissected some animals. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But for the most part, I just didn't understand. Like, I didn't understand what I was reading. And when I was in school, and I'm pretty sure now it's probably the same way, but it was very textbook, read, learn about it, try to memorize it so you can take a test or whatever. It wasn't really like super hands on. And when we got to chemistry, I just felt like you said, I was doing math. Like and I love math. So I was like, okay, this feels like math. Like I'm doing math. And that's kind of how I understood it. And when I went to college, I did take a chemistry test and a chemistry class, it still felt that way. But truly and deeply, I did not understand what I was doing. I didn't know it. I just didn't understand it. But now that I'm going, through this homeschooling journey with my daughter and getting back into science, I'm like, this is so interesting. Like, now I feel like I'm actually learning about science and doing hands-on things and going back and learning with her things that I feel like I should have already learned or been interested in so that, I can help my daughter on her journey. But now, like, we're learning together. And I would just want to know, like, what is your advice for parents on how to build molecular literacy and what could we do at home?
Great. Yeah. Well, I think I would recognize the importance of curriculum such as mine, and I think mine's the only one that exists, but so uh, shout out to myself on that one. Um, but I would recognize that think first of chemistry in particular as a literacy course, right? So, how are you teaching your child at home how to read? Use those same strategies in teaching chemistry. So, the tools that I've developed mirror the tools that you have at home to teach literacy. So, I have cards with elements on them that you put together to create formulas. So, it's a card game like Uno, it's called Ionic Ooze, right? I have
Mm,
kid-friendly books, right? So we know reading to our children and having our children read develops literacy. And in those books, there's puzzles, games, and activities. There's recipes so you can cook along and make Granny Eve's creme brulee that she's making in the first comic, or I think the second comic book. So there's all kinds of things that happen, but I really think it's important to dislodge what is being promoted as chemistry at home today, because what I've seen is parents, and it makes me really sad, are buying a lot of these kits, right? And you're just doing. You're not
mhm,
learning, you're doing. You might mix some stuff together and have a bunch of test tubes, and also, just FYI, all that stuff is terrible for the environment. It's
mhm,
just more stuff, right? And the learning that comes from that is very low, almost nil. You're better off making food because at least you can consume the food. So being in the kitchen and being in the garden, those are better chemistry experiments than any of these things that you can buy. How my curriculum differs is I'm focused on the literacy piece. Because when your children get to college, 80% of a chemistry course is the lecture, 20% is the lab. So you can be the best kit person and go to STEM camps and have test tubes and safety glasses and lab coats on. It's just, it's meaningless if they're illiterate.
mm,
And it does not help at all. So I'm begging parents to consider starting with foundational molecular literacy so that when your child encounters any kind of chemical formula anywhere in their lives, they will be confident in it and not think, oh, I don't know what that is. That's only for smart people or people that like science. That's not true because we are all made of molecules. We all have to understand what we are made of. So
Mhm.
Global molecular literacy is my goal, and I want to start as soon as possible with as many folks as possible.
I love that because you are a teacher, but you're also an entrepreneur. So I would love for you to talk about your entrepreneurship journey, just because, I'm in entrepreneurship, and I think that it's very inspiring to create what's in your brain, right? Like to come to fulfill your dream, your vision, and put it out there for the world to see. So let us know about your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, um, I've been telling stories in my chemistry classrooms for years. I'm a storyteller. And I realized that my best and brightest students were still falling short because they were not able to bridge the gap between what I was representing on maybe on a whiteboard and what was in my head, what I was seeing. Because I see everything in 3 dimensions and molecules dancing and having fun, and they're just looking at some stick figures on a board. So to animate those, I told stories, and storytelling ignites the imagination. And so I could ignite their imagination through storytelling. And they would say, "Oh, Dr. Kelly, we remember your stories for so many years. These are great stories. You should write them down." So, about a decade ago, I started writing the stories down, thinking about how they could look, and went through several iterations. I didn't intend to write comic books, or, well, they're really graphic novels. I thought I could write just some kind of curriculum that was a hybrid textbook with these stories. Anyway, through many years of rejection, basically, the only vehicle that I found, and thank goodness, because it's a great vehicle for learning, is through graphic novels. So I'm not an artist. I'm not a comic book writer. So I had to learn how to write scripts, how to write comic books, how to connect with the comic book artist, how to develop that, like how many panels you can have per page, how many words you can fit in a bubble, all of that, and have that serve as a vehicle for students to learn college level chemistry. So it was quite the entrepreneurial journey. And then from there, just trying to figure out, okay, now that I have created these, how do I get the word out? How do I talk to folks like you and get these into the hands of as many people as possible? So it's been tough. I'm not going to lie. There are times when I want to give up and think, oh boy, this is just so many. I think all entrepreneurs feel like they're pushing a huge boulder up a hill, and you just keep pushing it up the hill. And occasionally you have folks on the sidelines clapping for you, which helps a little bit, but not as much as they think it does. You really need them to help. They really need to get behind you and start pushing instead
Yes.
of cheering. So I'm really that analogy is strong for me right now, where I'm happy for the people, and it's really been nice to have all the people cheering me along as they watch me push my boulder. But I'm gonna start inviting folks to get behind me and start pushing with me.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's so true. That's basically in business what we need is community. Like you said, people to help us and support us, not just encourage us and motivate us to keep going, but to help and lend a helping hand when you can. I absolutely love that. And also for us to be able to receive that support. Because some people will help, but we have to know how to receive that too and not feel like we started this, it's our own, we got to keep going and give it away. Can you tell us a highlight that you've had on your journey so far, your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I think I was surprised last April. Well, actually, about a year ago, I was invited to give a TEDx talk, and I went through the application. I was nominated, and then I went through the application and interview procedure that the TEDx Corporation puts forward. And was accepted, and then went through the process of giving that talk. So it was a 9 month journey to prepare for 15 minutes on stage. And during that journey, there's a lot of clarity that comes because the folks at TEDx don't leave any I undotted or T uncrossed. They make sure you're polished. But the great thing about that is to really, really, really deeply reflect upon the message of TEDx is um, ideas worth sharing, right? So you think to yourself, why is my idea worth sharing? What is it? So what is it that you want to bring out? So I think the grueling journey, and I'll say that I encourage all folks to give a TEDx talks for the clarity, for all the things it gives you. But it for me, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I think with things that are really challenging comes a great reward too. Um, but yeah, so that was out in April of 2025, and I'm really proud of that, what created on stage there.
You really should be. I watched the TED Talk and I absolutely loved it. And like I said, that's why I had to reach back out and say, I would love to have you on my podcast and just shoot my shot. Even if you would have said no, I just felt like I had to ask because I love what you're doing. And I would love to know, during that clarity, what did you find? Like, what is your why and your purpose?
What really uncovered to me is what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast is, yeah, several times, and a lot of scientists get the question, why is this important, right? Why does the world need to know this? And I think, especially in today's times, I want folks to know how similar they are. And on a molecular level, we are identical. You know, we got carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, little phosphorus, all of the a little smattering of calcium, potassium, all of that. That's us, right? Our hair, I mean, has the same elements. So, I mean, everything. And then in our worlds, whether I'm looking out at the desert, you're in a rich, lush North Carolina, but on a molecular level, there's so many similarities. And I really feel like on a global level, what I'm doing can connect us. And we can write chemical formulas that exist, anywhere in the world. So I think that was clarified for me of why I'm doing it. The universal language is really what I'm promoting.
That is so beautiful. I love that because like you said, if we could just realize how similar we are, more similar than we may think, then I feel like a lot of things that we argue about in general, we wouldn't probably argue about, you know?
No.
Like you said, it would just bring more understanding and peace towards everyone. I love this message because we need spaces and places and things that do bring us together, especially in this climate. Like it's a lot going on. We need community. We need people to come together. We don't want to be arguing and fussing and going back and forth, especially if, like you said, on a molecular level, we're just literally all the same.
We are, yes.
I love that message. I really do. Is there any because I don't want to hold you long, but is
Oh,
there any last thing that you want to let us know about your work, what you do, where you share your work, about chemistry in general? Like, what are your hopes for the work that you do?
my hopes are that folks realize that they can pick up my comic books and the games and activities. And I can imagine a child with the comic book, their paper version, for the reason of I want kids to get out and maybe sit under a tree and read the comic books, right? Um, they can be self-taught, they can be facilitated at a deeper level with adult supervision, not teaching, but just pacing, really. Just like, okay, here's the next task, here's the next task. But I'd like folks to be open to molecular literacy as their science course for their children, as opposed to thinking they have to follow what's out there right now. Because I can tell you, after 30 years in higher ed, we have an 80% failure rate in chemistry for underrepresented students, and that has not changed. So,
Mm,
no amount of the stuff that's out there now has helped. And it's because of this molecular literacy issue. So I really would encourage parents to think about science and think about foundational studies and things like you're doing, like in the garden, in nature, and really getting back to fundamentals, because that is enduring. And when we look at what has endured over decades and centuries, this is what's enduring. Learning the latest, greatest from an iPad is not enduring because that's going to change. What doesn't change is the garden, molecules, right?
Yeah.
These will serve our children and our grandchildren and the next and future generations too. So really look at it like that, like what's going to be in service to learning that's that's durable as opposed to trendy.
I love that. I have a question. Have you
Sure.
ever do you watch anime?
No, I haven't.
There's an anime out there that and what is the name of it? I can't remember the name right now, and it's sad because I've watched the whole seasons, but the world turns into stone, and there's one scientist that cracks out of the stone, and it basically goes back and shows, like, from the beginning of time, everything that you had to do, like, we had to do to build like, our modern technology, and it goes through and it teaches, about chemistry. It's not very kid-friendly because anime, can be a little
Yeah.
adultish, but it goes through and it teaches you about chemistry, science, how to build this, how to build that. They were building phones, the ways to communicate, cars. It was so cool. And
Oh, that is cool.
I just think that what you're doing is the same way that TV show, the concept is to engage children in a fun way
Yep.
because science wasn't fun to me. I just thank you for making it fun. And where can we find your curriculum, your resources, and let us know what is the name of your business, of your educational resources.
Oh, yeah. So the website and the business is Kids Chemical Solutions. So KIDS Chemical Solutions plural.com. And we've got a ton of free stuff. If I can offer it for free, I will. The things that you need, because I'm also a social entrepreneur. So as much as free things I can. So there's a big old tab in the middle that says free games, and there's other free stuff in there. We have Audible books that are free. We have one online game that's free, bunch of printables that are free. And then the comic books and the card game are for purchase because I had to pay folks to create those. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, so kidschemicalsolutions.com. I also have a YouTube channel with all kinds of fun cooking science lessons. So that's Chemistry Colleen on YouTube. And yeah, have at it. Have a good time with what you can find.
Thank you for the free resources. You all, I will be sharing her links in the description. So do not worry. You can go and find her links. Kid Chemistry Solutions, you all, please check it out. I know I'm going. I'm checking it out because my daughter, after watching some of those episodes with her, she loves, like, she wants to get into it, science. And I love how you said introducing the periodic table as an alphabet. That's very helpful because we are like in that stage of teaching her how to read. So and we are moving actually into the stage of reading to learn. Like she's actually getting there and we're building that skill. So I love that you mentioned that because I feel like we're at a stage now where we can't introduce science. And I don't want it to be, like you said, when she gets to high school and college. And I love that, me being on this homeschooling journey, I can do that. Like
Yes.
we have the time to do that. Yes. Um, so I want to encourage you all to check out her resources and do the learning with your children where you can, when you can, and how you can. But there are resources out there. So thank you, Dr. Is it Dr. Colin?
Just Colleen is fine. Yeah.
Colleen, I'm sorry. I'm a little country, so I want to make sure
That's
I'm
all
saying it right.
right.
But thank you, Dr. Colleen. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and just everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, you all. Peace.